I was comfortable with everything she had sent them and how she had responded to them, just kind of knowing the site and where it is. Again, it's primarily a regreening of this area. I know that basically with her comments surrounding the vernal pool, um, the only real concern would be during construction where we could get some migration, and I think we have some things in the plans to make sure that doesn't happen. I think we're going to have the right people there doing the project. Um, and there is a break. There's a break between the field, the limit of work, and then where the vernal pool is. So when the project's done, it shouldn't have any detrimental effect at all. And again, we're basically just recreating a section that was filled before. Um, so I had no issues with it as it stood. I was comfortable with her answers back to DEP. I understood what DEP was looking for. I'm kind of comfortable with the project as it stands. So I have no additional questions right now. But I want to put out to members of the commission, does anybody have any additional questions? Any comments, thoughts? A couple questions for myself. It looks like there's a tree that the chain link fence goes all the way around the field. Did I read that right? Let's take a look. Lauren, you been able to Sure, Jim, if you have them up on your screen, if you want to share. Yeah, I can share. I'll try and share. Okay. Can you share my screen? Yes. Okay. So I think it says here the focal point vinyl chain link fence. Yes, sure. Details, right? So I'm assuming this goes all the way around the field. Is my assumption? Yeah, it does. Yeah. Okay. It looks like it does. Okay. Good. Because it's kind of close, but there's a huge elevation difference between the height of the field and the vernal pool. And I see a field entrance here on the bottom here, and on the left side, and then also on the right side, which is near the vernal pool. Is there a reason why they didn't put entrances up at the, kind of where the, I'm going to call it the top next to the school, why the entrances are down the bottom here?
So I love that there is a trail that goes back into the woods, back in that far corner.
Yep. It's right here.
Oh, okay.
My cursor right here, right? So here's the field entrance, the one I'm talking about here. There's one here, there's one also on the left-hand side here. I just wondered why they're down at the, I'll call it the bottom of the field. Yeah. As opposed to having it up here where it kind of seems like that's where people would be entering the field.
I'm wondering if it's just not labeled at the top because there is a walking, it looks like there's a walking path leading into the field at the top right corner of the field. Yeah, right where your cursor is, that looks like it would be a pathway.
Yeah, I think there's a pathway to go around the 10-point stabilized path. And here's the fence here. It's just a quick question. I was just curious. Maybe there is one. It seems like they should be up here as opposed to having it kind of where the vernal pool is around here. So just a comment. I think that the top half, is that the, not the entrances you were pointing to, the other entrances, that comes off the parking lot from the school, right? No, there's the school up here at the top, right? Right. And entrances are at the bottom of the field. The one thing I'm thinking, I'd have to see how they would get it, is I'm curious if it's maintenance to get the mowers on there, because they're still going to have to maintain the field. And I'm just trying to picture from the school, the grade, it's basically a downgrade from the school to get to the field. And I think they come in when they mow the other way, but I could be wrong.
Okay. You're right, Brian. Actually, at the bottom left, it does say maintenance access gate next to the field entrance. So.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, right side here. That might explain why they would have left those open. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that was it. Thank you. Additional questions from commission members? Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Seeing none. I'll put out to commission members. People comfortable with the plans as they are? Any changes you would like to see? Any additional questions you'd like me to put out to Rebecca or to see if we can get additional answers for? I know they're hoping to start moving forward with this sooner rather than later, but again, if there's any questions or if there's any changes anybody wants to see made, I think it looks good. Okay. Okay. All right. In that case, I'm going to make a motion that we'll close the public hearing for the notice of intent for Derby Field DEP file number 112-0753. Do I hear a second for closing? Second. All right. All those in favor, starting with Paul? All right. Jim? Aye. Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well. I'm gonna make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for Derby Field DEP file number 112-0753 as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for issuing the order of conditions? Second. All those in favor, starting with Paul? Aye. Jim? Aye. Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. So next up on the agenda, I believe, is a request for a certificate of compliance. Okay, and this is all right. So it's a request for a certificate of compliance for 580 Main Street. This is the Alta. This is not Alta Neshoba, the new condo apartment complex going in. This is the building that stayed in place. If you can remember, and Sam, this may have predated you. The property that held the Bolton, can't remember, the commercial buildings was split into two properties. One has since been demolished, and that's where there's proposed building site for Alta Neshoba Valley. The other stayed as a commercial building. This is a certificate of compliance for the one that stayed as a commercial building. So this has nothing to do with what has been demolished, where they're going to be building. This is just dealing with the building that has been left in place. I know a lot of people have been kind of following that that project. So just to be clear for anybody watching, it's simply this is simply a certificate of compliance for the commercial building that was left in place. That said, Rebecca did do a site visit. She had no issues with it, either during construction or following construction. Basically, everything was done or left the way they said it would be left for that property, and she had no reasons or no issues with us issuing a certificate of compliance for this. So I personally would be in favor of doing so, but I want to open it up to commission members first. Any comments, questions, thoughts?
I do have a quick question. Is this including the parking lot in the back, or is that a separate project?
I would have to double. It's most likely the second project because the back parking lot, a lot of that is getting switched up. Like 3/4 of that parking lot's going away. It's getting extended. So a lot of that's part of the other project. I don't think the existing building now maintains any of that parking lot, but I hate to say that with 100% certainty. I'm not sure, Jim or Paul, if you remember. I don't believe it does. Mr. Chair, it's Jeff O'Neill, one of the principals of 580 Main, so I can speak to that. But that would be excellent. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, please. So that is correct. And really, the order of conditions and the certificate of compliance that we're seeking really seeks to the demo of the excess of the building, as well as the parking lot that was all relocated to the front of the building. So Neshoba Valley, Alta Neshoba is doing their project in the back, and everything that we've done really surrounds just primarily the remaining part of 580 Main. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any additional questions from members of the commission or comments? Anybody from the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Seeing none. In that case, I'm going to, Lauren, roll call vote for COC,
Yes. Yep.
right? Okay. In that case, I'm going to call for a roll call vote. All those in favor of issuing a certificate of compliance for 580 Main Street, DEP file number 112-0736, please say aye. Starting with Paul. Aye. Jim. Aye. Sam.
Abstain.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff, for stopping tonight. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Take care. Okay. So next up on our agenda this evening is another request for a certificate of compliance. This being for 19 Whitcomb Road. See. Lauren, would you be able to share your screen? Okay. And I guess first off, if
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say that's built or
I would say the photos first of what the basically what was supposed to be a kind of a drip edge ended up looking like.
so the original plan and then the as built or
Do you actually have the photos?
There we go.
Okay, those are the ones.
This is from the site visit notes.
Yeah. So Rebecca went out, did the site visit, make sure everything was in compliance, and generally speaking, it was. This graveled area was supposed to be like a French drain or like a drip edge, which are generally speaking a lot thinner than this, than the amount they filled. However, it doesn't have to flow through the area. It's still a pervious surface. It still functions the same. So that's, I mean, it's just, basically they kind of overdid. They really wanted to do a footer stow kind of a drip edge type thing and kind of decided to fill a little bit more. That said, now Lauren, if you're able, I was going to say, kind of keep these pictures in mind. If you're able to pull up the as-built, if you can kind of focus in on that back corner behind the garage. Okay. If you see that gray strip along the ground, I mean, that was the idea of the drip edge French drain type thing, and you can see it's really extended out a bit. And again, talking with Rebecca, it's not something that really hurts or affects. It's fine if that's the way they want to have it, but she had stated, and I tend to agree with her, that it would be good to put it in perpetuity, to put it like ongoing orders as part of the COC. Nothing should be stored beyond the approved limit of work within the jurisdictional area. So if you look at the as-built, you can see that it's still showing the original plan as far as the drop-off is in that corner, and they have clearly squared it out more by filling in with the actual gravel. In theory, we could be asking for a new as-built because this is not really exactly representing the way it ended up. But Rebecca again thought that we might simply be covered just by putting it in the final order, saying, that's fine the way you have it. You can't store that there. Basically, you can't use that as like a patio within the jurisdictional area going forward. Made sense to me.
I'm not sure if I'm explaining it well. If you have no questions, comments, or thoughts, but that was basically, and you can read through her comments, her site visit comments, basically what I was getting from her.
Someone posted a job tonight.
I'm sorry, I'm just kind of looking through her notes again.
Order of conditions was originally approved. Didn't it specify what top cover was required? Hello?
Hi.
This is Mitch, not you. Okay,
Yeah, did you hear Sam's question?
Yeah, so just, once we started the building process, originally there was supposed to be a 3-foot recharge trench. And then, once we got the building up and the grade was finalized, the ability to leave just a few feet of grass didn't really work out with for the septic, the foundation was up higher than what I had originally thought it was going to be. So that grade was so steep that just filling it in and the amount of runoff of water off of the roof, it ended up, shooting out in a heavy rain a lot further. So that's why I decided to put, stone the whole way across the back. That way, everything was being caught in there. And then, like I said, the ability to maintain it with that few feet of grass wasn't really going to be realistic. So that's why we ended up putting the additional stone there. Thank you, sir.
And I was going to say, I know I did a bad job of trying to explain earlier, but I think that was part of Rebecca's reasoning was she can understand exactly why he did it, and just to make clear that, okay, but, just so you know, nothing's stored there, that it's going to be left this way instead of left in grass.
Makes sense.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts from members of the commission? Anybody from the public here tonight to comment on this particular discussion? Not seeing any. All right. In that case, I'm going to call for a roll call vote to issue a certificate of compliance for 19 Whitcomb Road with the following ongoing condition. That nothing should be stored beyond the approved limit of work within the jurisdictional area. All those in favor of issuing this COC, please say aye, starting with Paul. Aye. Jim?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Okay. Looks like we are continuing with our run of certificates of compliance. This time regarding 38 Long Hill Road. In talk with Rebecca, I think she put in her notes, she's still waiting additional information, specifically regarding the left-hand side of the driveway and some of the stabilization and remediation that's going on there. So her recommendation at this point was not to issue a certificate of compliance. I would tend to agree with her recommendation, and therefore I just say we would probably take no action on this particular COC this week. Comments, thoughts, questions? Okay. All right. So next on our agenda, we had a discussion regarding Tom Denny Nature Camp. I'm saying for a newest member, I think Jim and Paul, you've gone through this before. Tom Denny Nature Camp is run by the Bolton Conservation Trust. It's run on our Bower Springs property. Generally speaking, they have to ask permission. There are certain restrictions around what they can and can't do. And generally speaking, we've always worked really well with them. It's a great educational opportunity. It's generally speaking a lot of local kids that actually get out and use our conservation property. Is where the whole conservation education twist to the camp. So generally speaking, we think it's been a great partnership. We like working with them. But there's always questions of oversight. Bowers is a well-loved and well-used property, and just making sure that we are maintaining and taking care of it properly. So Rebecca had added to the discussion tonight, basically looking once again for us to either give permission or not give permission, and in giving permission or not giving permission. She had come up with some possible questions for us to consider, either this year or going forward. In no particular order, I'm just going to try to read through some of these just so we can possibly discuss. But was it? Does the commission wish to require an NOI for camp activities going forward? A number of other towns don't. Most other towns, I shouldn't say most, I think many other towns don't. It's something we could consider, basically because of how well used Bowers is. Not something that she necessarily recommended, but it's a question we can ask ourselves: should this be something going forward that they have to file an NOI, which gives us a little bit more control over, like, what areas they can use, what areas they can't, what the cleanup's going to look like, what the setup's going to look like, all of those good things. The second question was: does the commission wish to restrict access points along the pond? This was again, they usually, for some of us who've been out there in the past, I don't know, Paul or Jim, if you've ever done a site visit out there or walked along. Right. So they've generally put their kayaks and their canoes in, kind of not so much on what we call the beach area, but kind of along the path as you're going towards that. A lot of times they'll swim off that as well. And I think it was a question of basically pointing out it's easy enough this year where some of the beach area is kind of definitely closed off as we're trying to get that back, but it's kind of putting in some possible restrictions, saying, look, this is the area where we'd like you to access the beach, or this area as opposed to that area, and it's basically trying to make sure some of these areas don't get trampled or overused, depending. It's one of the good questions. Does the commission wish to restrict the type of cleanup permitted in the camp area? The Board of Health requires them to have meet certain standards of cleanliness when they set up the camp. So there is a lot of raking, removing of down wood, detritus, all that stuff to make this whole clear, clean camp area. Just because the Board of Health thinks that's a good idea, we might not think that's a good idea. Sometimes we're removing too much underbrush. Some of the stuff that naturally should be there, some of the stuff does not need to be raked up or pushed off to the sides. It was just a question Rebecca had thought of. So an interesting one was: does the commission wish to require a fee for the use of the property? And this is one we can talk to Rebecca more about. Generally speaking, we work really well with the trust. That's perfectly fine, but we can't help. We can't really solicit donations to help with cleanup and to kind of help renaturalize things. And it might be something the trust would be willing to do, to pay a small fee, and that it would be money we could use to basically help restore after the fact. Something to discuss possibly with her going forward, but just something to think about. And the other question she had was: does the commission wish to inquire if the Conservation Trust wishes to assess and reinvigorate the existing pump well for water and washing on the property? Apparently there was a pump well that was set up there at some point. I'm not sure who set it up, originally, or for what use. It may have been for a camp along those lines, and she was curious if it made sense to talk to them about trying to maybe reinvigorate that and use that for a lot of their water needs at camp. Again, just a question. All of these questions are in the annotated notes for your packet. I have developing thoughts on all of them. I'm trying to kind of get my own head straight on all of them. I'm not sure if people have had a chance to read through them or really think about them. But if it isn't something you've really thought of much yet, because I have to admit I really haven't really thought through them to the extent that I would like to. These are questions we should really like to answer, quite possibly at our next meeting. Because Tom Denny basically needs to know, if they're having the camp this year, if there are any additional rules and whatnot, so they can plan. So I'd hate to hold out any longer than that. I'd love to get people's thoughts tonight in the public meeting about the general concept of Tom Denny continuing to hold a nature camp there, at least definitely holding a nature camp there this year. So in theory, if people are in favor of it, they can at least point to a public meeting where we're clearly in favor of the idea, just waiting to see if we want to put some additional things in place. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, I can give you my thoughts. I read through it. Well, please. First of all, I'm a big fan, so I really think we should allow them, and I also want to make it as easy as possible, so I don't think we need an NOI. I think they will be amenable to any, rules or guidance we give them, and I do think that's fair, like around the pond, if we want to tell them, please access here, stay away from there, etc. I think that's a reasonable request. I know even if they did it to the general public, they probably wouldn't follow it, but at least here we have a specific group that will be using it heavily for several weeks, so I think that's reasonable. I don't charge them a fee if they don't have to. And the last one, maybe that's could be a good idea to check out the pump well. I have no idea. I didn't know it existed, so that one is kind of maybe a good question for them to look at. I was going to say I think the one I'm stuck on is the cleaning up the camp, because I'm kind of with it. Like I really don't want to charge them a fee. I can explore that more with Rebecca, but again, I think they do great work. I'm happy to have them there. I think it's wonderful. I don't want them to have to do an NOI. Restricting access, that's something I'd almost like Rebecca to draft some wording or some a good way for us to say where, because that's kind of hard for us to come up with in a coherent manner for this. Agreed with you on the fee. Same thing with the pump well. I don't see why not if they're amenable to it. The cleaning of the campsite, that's one I kind of wanted to look more into and see what's required by DEP. How necessary is it? Is it necessary? Is it something we can limit in a way that makes Board of Health and Tom Denny happy, as well as, and that's someone I'd like to have more time on. But again, curious other people's thoughts. Yeah, I agree with what you guys said. Definitely. What are they question? What are they using for water now? Are they bringing in water? I was going to say, Lauren, I don't remember if Rebecca mentioned this. That was kind of what I was assuming. Okay.
I don't think she did mention it during our conversation today, so I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. I believe they bring it, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be great to have water like that one. As far as the cleanup goes, is it not working right now? Is what they're doing not working for us, or? Sounds like I mean, it is. The area gets trampled pretty well. You've got a camp with a lot of kids and a lot of things going there, and it's just a question of over time, how is it really eroding? Is there a way we can bring it back in between? There are certain things that they do. They do a cleanup when they leave. Making sure that we give them enough time to do that, and making sure. Well, I guess there's two different things. There's the cleanup when they leave camp, making sure they can get everything out of there. I think Rebecca mentioned DPW run into some issues just with some lost and found stuff just being left there. Just making sure they get everything out that's supposed to go out, everything back in sheds, all that good stuff. So that cleaning up issue. And then the other one was the actual campsite itself. And that's the one like it really gets trampled down. We're clearing everything off it constantly. I don't know what's required by the Board of Health, but I know they have certain standards that they need to meet. And I guess I'm having trouble figuring out where those intersect. What's the good guidance to say? Yeah, so we need to move the main campsite every 3 years, or we should do this after they leave. I just don't know what those answers are right now, or the best questions to ask even.
Yeah, it sounds like something for exercise for the background line to figure out what's the procedure, what's the cleanup procedure.
Okay. Sam, any initial thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I think like not having an NOI with them, I'm fine with that. That's not a huge thing for me. The access points, I think that if there are restricted access points, to Paul's point, they're going to be pretty respectful of those for the most part. Just to jump around a little bit, the fees, maybe rather than doing a fee, we could set up like projects that the camp might be able to do. Rather than have a fee-based schedule, because they do use that property so often. So rather than have like any sort of monetary contribution towards it, maybe just having like a different type of cleanup day and having the campers understand why, right? Because that could probably go onto their curriculum as well. Not trying to paint a picture, but seems pretty logical. The camp area, to your point, if they start to move some of the campsites, I worry about the potable water with that drinking water location. I know that there are very, very strict SIGWA standards, the Safe Drinking Water Act standards, when it comes to transient locations, which I believe that would likely be one. And the state would probably have a lot of comments as well as any of the like waste that they would have, not just like trash, but human waste, and where that would be in the distance. So I have some questions regarding, if they're going to start moving campsites, let's just say, for example, in order to try and reduce the debris, I think you're going to run into a significant amount of other public health concerns. So that's just kind of my thought. If they want to go and attempt to figure out what's going on with the well for a potable drinking water source, I think that makes a lot of sense. But I wonder if it was, kind of abandoned purposefully.
Right. So, that's it.
Ryan, can I just jump in too?
Please, Laura, go ahead.
Sam, you had mentioned the idea of doing almost like project-based work for the camp, and that's actually something that was sort of mentioned in the request from the Bolton Conservation Trust. And if any of you are able to share your screen, I lost access to do that. We do in the meeting packet have their list of requests of what they're looking to do this year. So they said that they're actually open to any projects that we might be interested in having them do with the kids. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Awesome, thank you, Lauren. Yep. It's good to hear that they're open to that type of suggestion. I think that would be extremely beneficial for that location.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's always been a good program. I actually both my kids went to Tom Denny Nature Camp many moons ago. So it's been in existence for a long time now. Just one more comment, Brian. Please, Paul. They also ask every time about moving that field. So you have to be clear that that's okay as well. Thank you, Paul. And that was part of the cleanup as well. The Board of Health cleanup, I think it was a tick barrier basically to mow a certain path. And you know, is it the most necessary? Is it the best way to do it? It's arguable, but yeah, and again, and I feel I just need to look at some of this stuff a little more in depth. I guess, well, Lauren, you'll have a lovely recording. I guess Rebecca will be able to see some of our questions.
Sure, and I'll take the meeting minutes too, so I'll make a list of all the questions and give them to her.
That is excellent. And one thing I'd love to see is wording around, well, wording around many of these different questions, but again, around limiting around the lake is a good wording for where we might want to limit it to and how we might want to write that. That would be fantastic. Sure. If I can speak. Okay. All right.
Oh, and another thing to note, in talking with Rebecca today, she did mention that the beach area should be open by next summer. But just want to point that out. So the work should be done, and it should be open by next year.
Okay. All right. So it looks like we have some questions we're kind of putting out to Rebecca. I'll put more thought into this, I promise. If others want to do the same, because again, I'd really like to get Tom Denny Nature Camp an official answer, but unofficially, if they look at this evening's meeting, I think we are all pretty much in favor of allowing them to do it again this year. It's just a question around some of the wordings on that permission, but I don't think we had any overall concerns or issues with them hosting Tom Denny Nature Camp again this year. Okay. Next up. Sorry. Oh, listen, Lauren.
Yes.
We had discussion regarding the community garden.
Right. So
is this the one we did not have on the agenda last time?
That's correct. So members who were here last time, you'll remember we discussed a couple plots of land for potential locations for the community garden. It was on your annotated agenda, but it had not been listed on the agenda to the public. So for transparency, we're just going to have that conversation again. And luckily, Sam is with us tonight too, so that'll be good. And if anyone is able to share their screen to show what's in the meeting packet, that would be helpful.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay. Are you seeing it?
Not yet. There we go.
Got it? Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Yep, so we have actually two areas that we were looking into. And this is just, as a reminder, this is just a discussion about possible new locations. We're still looking at other areas throughout town too, but these were just two that we came across that we thought looked like good options. So they're both on Butternut Lane. We have this first one that you're looking at here, and it's located in riverfront area. It's listed at the top. So we have riverfront area, floodplain, or in buffer zone. And if you want to scroll down, Brian, we can see the other plot, and that's a photo.
I was gonna say this. So it would be here would be the garden area, right?
So this
first
photo. Right. Yep. So this first one here, the red box outlined, would be the potential location.
Okay.
On that plot.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm trying to orient with the new house we just.
Yep, so the new house, I think it was Zero Butternut is right there, yes, this bottom corner.
Okay. So next to it.
Yeah.
I thought this was the house for some reason now. I just no, don't mind me.
No, I did too.
I was like trying to orient. Okay. And I was to say there's the ground view of it. And then the second plot, sorry Lauren,
That's
which is
okay.
also off of Butternut, just kind of further down, further back.
Right, you were right in pointing to it in the above photo. But this is it right here. Yep. So we have riverfront area, aura, and buffer zone and bordering vegetated wetland here. So this one, it would be a little bit set back towards the tree line, where it kind of flattens out. So the reason we're looking at these two locations is because one of the concerns of where the community garden is located right now is that there's no access for driving. So we figured this is, you can park right on the curb. You can drive, as close as you can, and then you would still have to walk a little bit, but it wouldn't be as long as a walk as where the location is right now. So there might be more pictures if you scroll down.
And this is the second side, right? That's the wood
Yeah.
line.
So if any of you have an opportunity to go out there, take a look at it. That would be great. And this is one of those ongoing projects we discussed for the upcoming year that the commission decided that they, wanted to pursue in looking for a new location.
Yeah, I was saying, members of the public watching tonight, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please email Town of Bolton Conservation.
Concom@townofbolton.com.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anybody has any thoughts on that, and again, for commission members, if you're ever out by Butternut and you want to take a kind of a drive back and take a look and just kind of get thoughts, I mean, they both have pluses and minuses, and again, I know Lauren and Rebecca are looking at other parcels as well, but just want to make sure we made that conversation public.
Sorry. Where's the water source on either location? So that's something that we'd have to discuss. I don't think we do actually have a water source right now on either of those. So I'm not sure. And actually, Brian, do you know if the current community garden has a water source?
It's funny, like as soon as I was trying to think, geez, is there one out there now? And there might be, because it's right across from one of those back fields, and I thought there was water in one of those back fields, but it might not. It might be providing their own, but
Right, I'm not sure how they're
right.
doing it. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I'm trying to picture the current one.
Where is the current one?
It's behind the senior center, behind the senior housing next to what was the Bolton Office Park / Alta Neshoba Valley. That's what's being called. It was back there, so there was almost like dirt road access to get back there, so they could get right up to the garden. It was basically discovered while we were looking into, or while people were looking into the plans for the new places that access shouldn't have been granted. I forget if it crossed a water line. There were all sorts of reasons. Technically, we never had access. We shouldn't have had access to be able to drive back there, which really limited a lot of people. A lot of people that use community garden really need to be able to drive relatively close. And once we lost that access, they've been looking for another place basically ever since.
So are we looking for a place that can have, is a little bit flatter and is more accommodating to persons of all capacities?
I think that's well said. Access is somewhat key. and just a spot that would make sense, I guess, if that not in the yeah not in the middle of the woods somewhere. I mean, I guess that, but like something that would make sense, something that's accessible, relatively flat. Um, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Are we looking well?
I don't know. It's funny. I hadn't really thought about it till you had started asking the question this evening about how are they getting water to the current one. And Lauren, I'm not sure if that's something that you or Rebecca had discussed.
Very minimally. I want to say that they didn't actually have water access at the current one, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll have to ask for more about that and get back to you soon. Okay, thanks. Yep.
I want to say they did a lot of rain catchment there, and I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I can't picture it for the life of me. I haven't been out there in years.
I will mention for these two parcels, we looked up the deed for them, and they don't allow raised structures. So right now, the community garden that we have right now has raised beds that would not be able to. We wouldn't be able to have those on these parcels.
Yeah, we could fence it, but we couldn't have raised beds.
Yeah.
Like basically a deer fence.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a requirement where it needs to be a certain distance away from people's wells? Because there's going to be fertilizer and
Yeah.
things along those lines. And I know, just looking at the first proposed site, that it's kind of close to that house as well, if you recall. That way,
I believe, Jen, the general rule of thumb is 100 feet.
okay.
That's what I need for, I believe, septic systems for wells as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Additional comments, questions? Hearing none. But something to keep in mind, again, we might hear of other properties, but just something, again, if you're out that way and you want to take a look, you have further thoughts, please. It's something we're somewhat looking into. Just pop up my agenda real quick. There were no updates on the enforcement orders that I am aware of, Lauren, unless anything else has come in.
Oh, nothing else. No updates.
Okay. For those at our December 3rd, 2024 meeting, did you have a chance to look at the meeting minutes? If so, any edits, corrections, changes? If not, excuse me, does anybody require any more time to look through the minutes? See that? I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our December 3rd, 2024 meeting as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for minute approval? Second. All those in favor, starting with Paul. Aye. Jim.
Aye.
Sam.
Abstain.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you. Okay, Brian, I have one more question in regards to the garden location, which in regards to tractor or any sort of motorized vehicle, whether you can ride on it or not. What are we looking for the garden? Are we looking for something that is going to be, rototilled and that sort of stuff with a tractor? Or how are we going to be maintaining this type of operational space?
Good question. I think when and if we do establish a new community garden, that would be some of the rules we would need to put in place. I would guess we could have it go either way, where we could either allow or disallow any of that, which might be the case depending on where we end up going with a community garden. If we end up going with a community garden someplace new, I think it'd be interesting to ask what some of the other communities do. I want to say some allow not so much tractors, but they do allow tillers. And I wonder if it's a question of saying, you know, non-tractor, no tractor wheels, or no engine vehicles, or no vehicles, or something like that. But I would imagine that those are conditions that we can put in place when if we establish a community garden. But one, if possible, do we have any? Can we find out if we have any conditions or rules on the current community garden? And if there's anything governing that, and if anything was laid out for that one.
I'll have to look into that too. I'm not actually sure about that in terms of.
Yeah, I mean,
Um, yeah, but I know for the two parcels that we were just looking at, I think the deed mentioned no motorized vehicles. It's included in that on that sheet. But maybe like a hand tiller, you know, maybe something like that is allowed. So, but yeah, what was that, Sam? Sorry, depending on the size, that can be incredibly challenging, especially with the amount of underbrush there. That's one of the bigger reasons why I'm bringing it up. Is you might want to have that like an access point to be able to bring some of those heavier pieces of equipment, depending on the sizing that you're looking for. Yeah, I know in Westford, they do have a tractor that comes in for some of their locations. And they will do like rototilling, and they do plastic laying and stuff like that for anybody who's borrowing or renting a parcel there. Yeah, it's probably something good to think about.
Other comments, questions? Okay. As far as the forest legacy program, stewardship council project is going. That for the property, I know, and I think Rebecca had it in her notes. The title examination was completed, and she's contracting for a surveyor. So that is moving along on the first of the Forest Legacy Program Stewardship Council project. We need to have a nice little thing for that. I'm not seeing. The Bolton Trails Connectivity Improvement Project. All crossings are finalized to date, and Rebecca is working on final documentation to submit to the grant for reimbursement. So the Trails Committee put in the last of the bridges this past Saturday. I don't know if anybody's encountered them on any of our properties yet. They really are quite impressive. I think I've said it before, we're incredibly blessed as a town to have the Trails Committee. These people do amazing work. They got those bridges in no time. They got them professionally. They look wonderful. They cleaned everything around them. If there's any horse owners listening tonight, I think you'll be thrilled with what you have there. Hikers like myself, it's a wonderful crossing. And again, the men and women of the Trails Committee, they just did an amazing work. And they had other volunteers join them. I appreciate all the volunteers who were able to help the Trails Committee with this. But all of those core members, they did an amazing job with this. And I remain truly grateful to all of them. And I think that's the last of the updates I have tonight. I'm going to say our volunteer land steward position is still available, and there are two spots on the Conservation Commission available. If anybody's interested, please reach out. Lauren, are there any updates I missed or anything you would like to add?
I don't have anything else, so thank you.
Commission members, anybody have any new business, anything they would like to discuss?
Nope.
Any holiday traditions they'd like to share?
Nope.
Quick question. When is our next meeting?
Very good question.
Oh yeah. It's a long month. Let me just pull it up. So it's in 3 weeks. It'll be January 7th.
question, Jim. I was just saying we didn't have to continue to move anything tonight. Okay. Any other comments, questions,
No.
thoughts? Seeing none. Hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. Warm, healthy, happy. A lovely new year. Apparently, we will see you on the 7th, if not before. Lauren, again, thank you for all of your help. And all of that said, I'd like to make a motion that we hereby adjourn the Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second for adjourning? Second. All those in favor, starting with Paul. Aye. Jim. Aye. Sam.
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Happy holiday.
Okay.